The brass key turns in the lock of your very own dining room. The warm, ambient lighting reflecting off 50 perfectly set tables. Pouring wine, feeding friends, building a legacy. It feels like the ultimate neighborhood triumph. It is actually a financial death trap disguised as a community service. You are essentially operating a highly volatile chemical processing plant, a real estate leasing firm, and an unpredictable human resources department, all squeezed into 3,000 square feet. And the margin for survival is practically microscopic. A bustling neighborhood spot that processes $2 million a year in sales might leave its exhausted owner with just $80,000 in actual profit. Sometimes less, sometimes a devastating loss. So, let us look at the brutal mechanics of why 60% of these establishments do not survive their first 3 years. The moment you decide to open, you face a brutal reality check about what exactly you are building. Fast casual and drive-through operations are pure volume machines. Assembly lines, digital kiosks, minimal human interaction per transaction. These systems can occasionally squeeze out net margins of 8 to 12%, assuming the global supply chain holds up and paper goods do not spike in price. Full-service dining is a completely different beast entirely. You are paying for a host, a bartender, multiple servers, food runners, bussers, and a heavy culinary team, all while buying premium, highly perishable ingredients. The margins in full service routinely get crushed down to a fragile 2 to 4%. You can push that slightly higher, but only if your beverage program is incredibly aggressive and your average check is massive enough to absorb the crushing weight of the payroll underneath it. Then you face the franchise dilemma. Buy into a global sandwich or burger brand, and you are purchasing a survival manual. The flour suppliers are locked in, the point-of-sale software is debugged, and the logo on the illuminated sign already commands trust from highway drivers. But that safety net is wildly expensive. Initial franchise fees can easily drain $50,000 from your bank account, and the corporate office will take a permanent 6 to 8% royalty off your gross sales forever, before you even pay your own electric bill or your general manager. Go independent, and you keep every penny of the eventual profit. You can pivot your menu on a Tuesday when the wholesale price of chicken wings doubles. But you also absorb every single catastrophic risk, completely alone, with no corporate legal team to save you. Here is the trap most first-time owners walk straight into. They design a stunning, moody, 60-seat tapas and craft cocktail concept, and they sign a lease in a commercial district that strictly wants a $12 chopped salad in under 4 minutes. The restaurant does not collapse because the garlic shrimp is poorly seasoned or the bartender is slow. It collapses because the financial DNA of the concept is violently incompatible with the financial habits of the zip code it sits in. Heavy foot traffic on a sidewalk is a completely useless metric if those specific pedestrians are holding subway passes and running late for a corporate shift, rather than holding platinum cards and looking for a 2-hour culinary experience. A dense block of corporate offices positioned next to a slow-paced, high-end tasting menu is not a marketing challenge. It is a fundamental structural failure. No amount of targeted social media advertising can fix a neighborhood that refuses to pay $30 for a plate of food at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is exactly why veteran operators spend 6 months analyzing daytime population density, median household income, and local parking infrastructure before they even look at a lease agreement. Because the moment your signature is on that 10-year commercial lease, your concept is bolted to the floor for a decade. Now let us look at the sheer financial violence of actually opening the doors. The capital required is staggering and often hidden behind optimistic contractor bids. A light cosmetic refresh of an existing, previously operating restaurant space might cost $150,000. Building a custom space from a dark, empty concrete shell can easily obliterate $2.5 million. Landlords will sometimes offer tenant improvement allowances, but you are still responsible for the heavy, invisible infrastructure. A commercial kitchen is essentially a small industrial factory. A 20-foot Type 1 commercial ventilation hood with a welded black iron grease duct and an Ansel fire suppression system will easily cost $40,000 just to safely pull smoke out of the building. An underground grease interceptor, mandated by the city water department to prevent fat from destroying the municipal sewer, requires excavating the concrete foundation and drops another $20,000 onto the ledger. You discover that the bathrooms do not meet the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements, forcing a $30,000 plumbing and framing renovation. A massive walk-in freezer, the 6-burner Wolf ranges, the commercial dishwashing machine that leases for $200 a month before you buy a single ceramic plate or hire a single prep cook. Your bank account is hemorrhaging cash at a terrifying velocity. And then there are the bureaucratic tolls. The liquor license is a notorious hurdle that dictates your entire revenue ceiling. In some rural counties, it is a basic administrative fee of a few $100, processed in a week. In constrained, highly regulated markets like Boston, Miami, or certain counties in New Jersey, liquor licenses are treated as scarce commodities traded on the open market. A full consumption license can auction for $300,000 to $500,000. You are financing a $500,000 piece of paper just for the legal permission to pour a vodka tonic, and you have to pay cash for it up front. But even if you navigate the build-out, there is a silent killer waiting that destroys more restaurants than bad food ever will. Payroll. Amateurs calculate their labor cost by adding up the hourly wages of their staff and assuming the math is done. It is not even close. Once you factor in the employer portion of payroll taxes, state unemployment insurance, mandatory workers' compensation policies, and whatever basic health benefits you are legally required to offer, the true cost of that employee is 20 to 30% higher than their stated hourly rate. A financially stable restaurant desperately tries to pin its total labor cost at 30% of gross revenue. If that number drifts to 35%, the entire business model starts to suffocate. But the metric that truly destroys the balance sheet is turnover. The hospitality industry bleeds talent at a rate that would bankrupt any other sector. Fast casual concepts frequently endure turnover rates of 150% annually. You are constantly replacing the entire staff, month after month. Every time a line cook walks out mid-shift on a Friday night because the grill station is overwhelmed, the kitchen slows down. Table turn times stretch from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Waiting guests get frustrated and leave, and thousands of dollars in revenue vanish into the night. Worse still, recruiting, interviewing, onboarding, and training a replacement costs an estimated $4,000 to $6,000 in lost productivity, wasted ingredients during training, and management time. Run a team of 40 people with 100% turnover, and you are invisibly burning $200,000 a year just to keep the building staffed. Nobody puts that number on a menu. It is there anyway. Beyond the bleeding of talent, you have to manage the physical inventory. Food cost is theoretically supposed to hover around 28 to 32% of the selling price. Combine food cost and labor cost, and you arrive at the prime cost. If your prime cost breaks above 65% of your total revenue, the restaurant is on a countdown to bankruptcy. Here is the part almost nobody accounts for correctly. The invoice weight from your supplier is never the usable yield. A 50-pound sack of yellow onions loses 15 pounds the moment your prep cook peels the skins and chops off the ends. A premium whole beef tenderloin loses 30% of its mass to silver skin trimming and cooking shrinkage. If you price your menu based on the raw invoice weight, you are subsidizing the customer's meal with your own savings. And highly perishable premium goods, fresh Alaskan halibut, delicate microgreens, live oysters, are ticking time bombs. If a massive thunderstorm wipes out your Saturday night patio reservations, that fresh seafood does not pause its decay. It spoils in the walk-in cooler, and your theoretical 30% food cost on that dish violently spikes to 100% loss. The chef's most beautiful, complex culinary creation can easily become the restaurant's biggest financial leak simply because it did not sell fast enough to beat the expiration clock. This is exactly why survival dictates aggressive menu engineering. The menu is not a list of food. It is a psychological trap designed to extract specific margins. Operators categorize every dish into a matrix based on popularity and profitability. Items with massive profit margins and high sales volume, like a signature vodka pasta dish, are the absolute workhorses. You protect them at all costs. Items that sell constantly but have terrible margins, like a premium crab cake, are quietly adjusted. You shrink the portion size by 1 ounce or bump the price by $2, hoping the customer does not notice the shift. Items with huge margins that nobody orders are moved to the top right corner of the physical menu, highlighted in a box, and given a mouth-watering description to force attention. And the psychology goes significantly deeper than layout. Remove the dollar signs from the prices, and data from hospitality researchers proves that guests spend about 8% more, simply because the visual reminder of spending real currency is gone. Place a towering $120 seafood tower at the very top of the appetizer section, and suddenly the $22 fried calamari directly below it feels like a rational, conservative choice. None of this is accidental. None of it is illegal. It is calculated survival happening quietly while you decide between the chicken and the salmon. Underneath all of this lies the heavy foundation of relentless fixed costs that demand payment whether you serve 1 guest or 500. Rent, property taxes, and common area maintenance fees should strictly stay between 6 and 10% of revenue. Commercial utilities run another 3 to 5%. Refrigeration never turns off, and a mid-size kitchen with makeup air units and massive walk-in coolers can easily consume $4,000 a month, just keeping the ingredients cold and the lights on. Marketing and local outreach take another 3 to 6%. And then there is the merchant processing fee, a quiet tax of roughly 3% on every credit card swipe, which can easily siphon $25,000 a year out of the business just for the privilege of accepting digital payments. Which brings us to the trap that swallowed an entire generation of restaurant investors: delivery apps. On the surface, partnering with third-party delivery platforms feels like expanding your dining room for free. More tickets printing in the kitchen, more revenue flowing into the system, minimal extra front-of-house labor. The reality is a financial bloodbath. The platform extracts a base commission of 20 to 30% per order. Then they tack on a payment processing fee of roughly 3%. Then they demand another 3 to 5% in marketing fees just to keep your restaurant visible in the local search rankings instead of burying it on page 10. By the time a customer pays $30 for a burger and fries, the platform has siphoned off nearly 40% of the value. The restaurant might receive $18 to cover the expensive beef, the cook's labor, the heavy eco-friendly cardboard packaging that costs nearly $1 per box, and the rent. Remember what we established earlier. A full-service restaurant is lucky to keep a fragile 2 to 4% net margin. Giving away 35% of an order to a tech company is a mathematical death sentence. The math does not complicate itself slowly. It breaks immediately. The operators who survived this era did not try to out-negotiate the tech giants. They engineered a defense mechanism around them. They artificially inflated their delivery-only menu prices by 15 to 20% above their physical dine-in menu. Knowing the customer ordering from their couch was never comparing that price to the one printed in the dining room anyway. They completely removed delicate items that wilt or die in a cardboard box during a 20-minute drive, offering only high-margin, durable food. And they stapled aggressive discount coupons to every single delivery bag, practically begging the customer to order directly through the restaurant's own website next time, cutting the platform out of the relationship entirely. It does not make delivery a wildly profitable venture, but it makes it survivable. So here is the mathematical reason why restaurants actually bleed to death. Forget the myth that it is always about terrible food. It is rarely a sudden explosion. It is a slow, agonizing leak caused by undercapitalization. Owners spend every last dollar on custom Italian floor tiles and velvet booths, leaving absolutely zero cash reserves to float the payroll during the brutally slow first 6 months of operation. It is location blindness. A spot where 3 previous restaurants have already failed usually stops attracting tenants for a very good reason. But the new owner assumes their specific concept will magically break the curse. It is an owner who cannot read a daily prime cost report and does not notice the business bleeding thousands of dollars a week until the bank account hits zero and the checks bounce. And it is operational inconsistency. A kitchen that serves an immaculate, perfectly seared scallop on Thursday, but sends out a rubbery, overcooked mess on Sunday, destroys the trust of the local neighborhood. And repeat business is the only oxygen a restaurant has. Even an empty chair in a dining room is not a neutral event. It is a permanent financial loss. A retail clothing store can leave a sweater on the rack today and sell it tomorrow. A restaurant sells time and space. If a table sits empty from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock on a Friday night, the revenue that table could have generated is vaporized forever. There is no way to sell that hour again. This is why hostesses are trained to relentlessly manage table turnover. Every minute a server shaves off processing a credit card, every reservation that is perfectly staggered to avoid overwhelming the kitchen, every swift clearing of dirty plates, it is all designed to extract maximum yield from a depreciating asset. But let us say you survive all this and open a second location. This is where the real nightmare begins. Replicating the soul, the exact flavor profile, and the operational rhythm of a successful flagship restaurant is exponentially harder than building the first one. The common failure here is overborrowing to fund the expansion, or growing faster than the supply chain can actually support. The owner assumes the concept is foolproof, so they sign a second lease across town. They pull their best sous chef and their strongest general manager out of the original location to run the new one. Suddenly, the original restaurant starts to falter because its leadership is gone. The new location struggles because the operational systems were never actually documented on paper. They only existed in the muscle memory of the founder. Expanding without rigorous military-grade standard operating procedures is not growth. It is just duplicating your liability. Every recipe must be written down to the exact gram. Every prep task must be filmed and standardized. So after all of that, what does an owner actually take home? The national range for owner compensation runs from about $45,000 to $100,000 a year. Let us look at a highly successful, mature independent restaurant generating $1 million in annual sales. The food and beverage costs consume $300,000. The labor, payroll taxes, and benefits consume another $350,000. The prime cost is sitting at a healthy 65%. Rent, property taxes, and maintenance eat up $80,000. Utilities, insurance, credit card processing fees, and marketing burn through another $130,000. After paying off the initial bank loan for the kitchen equipment and accounting for depreciation, the absolute net profit left in the account is roughly $50,000. That is a 5% margin. That is $50,000 a year for an owner who works 80 hours a week, misses every family holiday, and carries the constant, crushing stress of $150,000 in perishable inventory sitting in a cooler that might lose power at any moment. Let the labor cost slip by just 3 percentage points because of unmonitored overtime pay, and that profit is sliced in half. Let the neighborhood demographics shift, or a major employer move out of the zip code, and it drops to zero. The economics of this industry are tethered to the physical reality of a specific street corner, a specific labor pool, and a specific lease agreement in a way almost no other retail business is. You cannot pack up a commercial kitchen and move it to a cheaper state overnight. You are bolted to the concrete, fighting for pennies on the dollar. But understanding these brutal mechanics is the first step to actually beating the odds. If this breakdown changed how you look at your favorite local spot, or if you are crazy enough to still want to open one, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden economics of everyday businesses. Let me know in the comments which industry's financial traps we should expose next.